Good morning, intuitives. Yes, I'm going to get back to my regular style of videos. That last one was a public service announcement, and it's something that I've researched and fought for 20 years. And, sometimes things just have to be said, even if what you're saying is unpopular or controversial. It's an INFJ thing. I can't help myself, nor do I want to help myself because it's the right thing to do. So, for those of you that watch my normal INFJ content and narcissistic abuse recovery content, this will be in that vein. And if you watch and haven't subscribed, you should, because it's free. And you can click a notification bell for whenever I feel like or get around to putting something up, because I'm far from a professional, so you never know when I'm going to upload a video. 2 in the afternoon, 3 in the morning, whatever. And if you'd like to see more content like this, you can always tip me, which is always a good incentive to do more. But this topic is a little on the heavy side, and it's sadly something that most of you on this channel will be able to relate to. I certainly do, sadly. And what it is it's the effects of childhood narcissistic abuse. So what are some of the lasting effects for someone who endured narcissistic abuse at the hands of someone with narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, or histrionic personality disorder? How does growing up with that and that being normalized to you in your formative years affect you as you age into an adult? Well, I got a list of six ways. And number one, and this is, going to hit home for a lot of you, is we seek love where it's not available. So because those of us that, were raised by narcissists, we don't get that affection, that unconditional love, that acceptance for who we are. We seek it in all the wrong places because we sought the approval of the narcissist for so long. That became normal to us. And as I've said many times, narcissists are never pleased. No matter how much you do for them, how much you bend over backwards, how much you strive and lie to yourself to be the person they want you to be, the second you do it, they just move the goalposts. And that translates into our love lives. So for us, we typically will go after people that aren't available, and will overthink and believe, well, I'm not just trying hard enough. There's something I'm not doing right. This must be obtainable, because we're so used to being told we're not good enough. So we'll automatically assume the fault is with us and assume that we're not going above and beyond enough. We're not doing what no other will do. But if we do, it'll all change. And it doesn't. We'll also go after people that are playing us and then blame ourselves and try to win that person back, even if that person's nothing more than a deceitful liar and a total fraud. It is a hard lesson that we learn through trial and error, and it hurts and it leaves lasting scars. Number two is we isolate ourselves when things go wrong. So when you're raised by narcissists and things don't work out, the narcissist will always blame you. It's always your fault, no matter what happens. Even if the system's rigged, it's it's our fault. Like somehow what happened to me at the fire department was my fault in my mother's eyes. It was my fault for wearing my pentacle, because that's not status quo-y. And in Chestertology, what is status quo-y is what's right. So a Christian can wear a cross, a Jew cannot wear a Star of David, a witch cannot wear a pentacle, even though they're all symbols of religion and were approved to wear in the ACFD guidelines, uniform code. But I forget the exact number. But again, all religious items and icons must be treated equally, as we have freedom of religion in this country and separation of church and state. There is no official religion in the United States, and there never has been, by the way. But doing something controversial or against what's sheepish and mainstream, the narcissist will blame the person being abused. So you're the one to be blamed, even if something's rigged against you. If somebody wrongs you, you must have did something to them to deserve it. If you break up with your girlfriend because she cheats, it's your fault she cheats. You didn't buy her enough gold or something. Whatever the problem is, no matter what's being done to you and no matter what the reason is, we're conditioned to believe from the narcissist, from our childhood, that we must have done something wrong and that we deserve it, and that the other person, especially if they're like, within the inner circle, in the in crowd, they by definition can do no wrong and they're allowed to treat you however they like because they're them. They're, pseudo royalty or some crap like that, especially if they're within the narcissist circle of flying monkeys or enablers, because, they feed the narcissist supply and praise. So they get a pass on abuse and exploitation because they're them. It would be similar to, I guess, a comparable analogy would be, well, sexual assault's bad, but when a famous actor does it, it's okay because he's him, and if he's a member of our club, we'll defend people in our club like Scientology and Danny Matheson. Yeah. So that's a good example of that one. Number three, uh, we are we are always there for others but feel invisible. Now this is particularly true for INFJs, but people that were victimized by narcissists in our youth, we understand what pain is, and we have to deal with and process what we went through every day, and we notice the signs in other people. So we will always stick our neck out to help somebody else who we deem as being abused, taken advantage of by a narcissist, by a borderline, by a histrionic. We're always the shoulder to cry on, always the holder, never the held. But at the same token, when the world gangs up on us, nobody's there for us. Like, we never expect anything in return, but also not only are we not, given the same empathy back, we are often stabbed in the back by the very people that sought out our help, which is quite maddening. And that sadly does become a pattern for us, to be the person who's always giving advice, always picking somebody up when they're down, always the person somebody leans on. But no matter what happens to us, we are never given that empathy back. And life could be just straight up brutal to us at times. Like I said a few months ago, perfect TV analogy to what I was going through is the end of Cobra Kai, when the various foreign senseis are just beating the shit out of Johnny Lawrence. That's a good analogy to where my life was a few months ago, and no empathy from quite a few people that I had helped in their downtime. But these same people, because I wasn't in their inner circle, would bend over backwards and treat it as if it was the end of the world when one of their own had to spend $150 to replace a car battery. Because for the inner circle, any slightest little inconvenience is, what a sin. That's something my mother would say all the time too. And any slight inconvenience for the narcissist, because they're, so much better and above everything, that they shouldn't feel any pain or any inconvenience. And any time, even like the slightest thing that upsets them, it's the end of the world and everybody should rush to their aid. So yes, being a victim of narcissistic abuse, and you get this conditioning from the narcissist, because the narcissist was never there for you when you needed them, when you were down. You were told things like, you just get over it, is what it is, whatever platitude they felt like spewing. And then you'd see them bend over backwards for, their enablers in any slight situation. Another one, number 4, I think, is we blame ourselves for when people hurt us. I alluded to this one earlier. We always feel like we haven't done enough, or that we must have did something wrong. And particularly if you're an intuitive, you think, you get this knot in your stomach like, well, what did I say that was taken the wrong way, kind of thing. But you always feel as if, because the narcissist conditions you, like, well, if somebody did something, you must have deserved it because you're not pleasing them enough, or you dared to be yourself and you fall in line and be a sheep. Everybody, just getting the Letterman's jacket and the high school praise is what life's all about. You should grow up to be Al Bundy. If you don't know who that is, look it up. But that's how the narcissist will condition you. Everything's your fault. You're to blame yourself. And particularly if you're not a conformist and you do what's right and what your integrity tells you to do, regardless of what is good and status quo-y, You treat people equally, not like, well, you can't, that's different. That's so and so's grandson, and he was some big shot 45 years ago. So therefore, his grandson, who wasn't even born at the time, is a prince. That's how we do things here. And it's like, no, that's nepotism and corruption, blasphemy, that kind of thing. So everything's your fault. You're to blame yourself, even when you have the courage to stand up and do the right thing when nobody else does. Anything that disrupts whatever the narcissist deems right and wrong, which changes like that, you're to blame. Got it? Number 5, this is a big one, particularly for introverts. You feel a deep emptiness and loneliness inside. So you constantly have this feeling that nobody understands you, that nobody really cares, that nobody, even notices what you're going through. Nobody has the courage to call it out, and that no one can understand what you're going through. And particularly if you grew up like I did in the 90s, you didn't even know how to put in the words what you were going through. Narcissistic abuse wasn't really understood then. So we all pretty much thought, from the anecdotal evidence from those I've talked to, and Ollie Matthews spoke of this too, something's wrong, but you think like, well, whatever this is going on, nobody else is going through this and nobody else will understand it, because people didn't talk about that back then. It wasn't understood. And you feel this constant isolation, again, that nobody understands you, but that nobody cares, and that it's you against the world, and that hopefully one day you can get out of this toxic environment that's perpetuating itself, that wants to essentially keep you a prisoner of this status quo that is killing you. And your only goal is to somehow convince yourself, no, this is not normal, and the day will come when I can leave this all behind. This isn't normal. This isn't how the world works. This is something going on locally here that I can get away from. And I figured that out around the age of 10. And finally, we are known by many, but still feel we have no real friends or connections. So again, being the person who's always there helping others, you're known as someone who cares, and especially someone intuitive, someone who can put pieces of puzzles together, figure problems out. But people are only really giving you attention and pretending to like you when you're useful to them. I said I was often used as a human lie detector, but nobody really gets you. Nobody really pulls you aside one-on-one and really wants to have that deep connection. And we're conditioned, being treated as a scapegoat, to accept those crumbs of acceptance from where we find them. So we think, people that are just doing the bare minimum, we go all out for, because we're so not used to that, particularly in a very like small area, very clannish, cliquish place. The narcissists and their influencers will essentially blacklist you, because it'll be like, oh, so and so who's so popular and important says that person's a freak. We must treat them like a freak, because all hail great queen narcissist. That's just what we do here. It is what it is. You don't think about it. You just do it. That's just what you do. So no one really makes the attempt to really get to know you because of the clannish nature. And you don't really get that until you get out, which is good. Once you get out, you realize you see people who are genuinely interested in you, because they don't know where you come from, or care about like who's related to who, and who's the big shot in East Goshen and all that crap that I dealt with. And you finally meet people who are interested in you for who you are and don't care about who you're related to and cliques and all that, which is awesome. For those of you that haven't experienced it, trust me, it's awesome. You will realize that what you went through is not right, and where you came from is not normal. But it takes getting out to know that. You're never going to improve the situation you're in. You're never going to change the culture of where you are. Even if you expose the narcissist, particularly people, in environments like that, are resistant to change. So they may shy away from praising the narcissist for a time, but they'll fight like hell to get their influence back, because that's what they live for. So I hope this was enlightening to those that, are wondering, what are some common lasting effects of childhood narcissistic abuse? Here's some. I'm sure there are more. These are ones I dealt with. That's why I wrote them down and made a list. So I hope that helped. Please like and subscribe. Watch the older videos, comment below, hit the notification bell, send me a tip via the super thanks or the 3 links that are in the about section, because you should read the about section, because it needs read. Remember to trust your intuition about if you think an environment's messed up and not normal, it probably isn't. And no sense in selling out your integrity to fit in because you've been marked for life. You'll never fit in, and you're playing in a rigged game anyway.